Captain Alara Miles stared out the viewport of the spaceship Elysium, her eyes tracing the endless expanse of space. The stars twinkled like distant memories, each one a reminder of what was at stake. The weight of her mission pressed heavily on her shoulders, a constant reminder of her sister's suffering back on Terralon. The Zephyr plague had ravaged her home planet, leaving a trail of despair and death. Alara's heart ached with the memory of her sister's frail form, grasping for breath, her eyes pleading for a cure that seemed just out of reach. "Captain, we are approaching the asteroid belt," said Jax, her second in command, breaking the silence. His voice was steady, but Alara could see the worry etched in the lines of his face. "Maintain course, Jax. We can't afford to lose any more time," Alara replied, her voice firm. She turned away from the viewport, her gaze sweeping over the bridge. Her crew, a motley group of misfits and dreamers, each bore their own burdens. They were her family now, bound together by a shared purpose. Mira, the ship's engineer, was hunched over a console, her fingers dancing over the controls. Her brow furrowed in concentration. She muttered under her breath, "If this old bucket of bolts can just hold together a little longer." Alara allowed herself a small smile. Mira's grumbling was a constant, but her skill was unmatched. "We'll make it, Mira. Just keep her steady." The ship jolted suddenly, throwing Alara off balance. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered. "What is that?" she demanded, gripping the edge of the console for support. "We've hit some debris," Mira responded, her voice tense. "Minor damage, but we need to be careful. This belt is thicker than the last one." Alara nodded, her mind racing. Every second counted. They had to find that research facility on Zandria. The cryptic message they had intercepted was their only lead, a glimmer of hope in the vast darkness. As they navigated through the asteroid belt, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Each crew member was focused on their task, but the fear of failure hung over them like a shroud. "Captain, I'm picking up an unusual energy signature," said Leora, the ship's navigator. Her voice tinged with excitement. "It's coming from one of those asteroids." Alara's heart raced. Could this be it? "Bring us in closer, Loria. Let's see what we've got." The ship veered towards the asteroid, its surface jagged and menacing. As they approached, a hidden entrance became visible, a gaping maw in the rock. "That's it," Alara breathed. "This has to be it." "We're not the only ones who found it," Jax warned, pointing to the scanner. "There are multiple life signs inside." "Hostiles?" Alara asked, her grip tightening on the console. "Unknown," Jax replied. "But we should be prepared for anything." Alara nodded, her resolve hardening. "Arm yourselves. We're going in." The crew suited up, their faces a mix of fear and determination. As they entered the asteroid, the air was thick with anticipation. The corridors were narrow and dimly lit. the walls lined with ancient technology. "Stay sharp," Alara ordered, her voice low. "We don't know what's waiting for us." They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the silence. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a group of aliens, their eyes gleaming with hostility. "Who are you?" one of the aliens demanded, his voice a guttural growl. "We're looking for a cure," Alara replied, her voice steady. "We mean you no harm." The alien sneered. "A cure? There is no cure, only death." Alara's heart sank, but she refused to give in to despair. "We have to try. Please, let us pass." The aliens exchanged glances, their weapons still raised. After a tense moment, the leader nodded. "Very well. But know this. If you fail, you will not leave this place alive." Alara swallowed hard, but she nodded. "We understand." As they continued deeper into the asteroid, the air grew colder, the silence more oppressive. Finally, they reached a large chamber, its walls lined with data terminals. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it a holographic projector. "This is it," Alara whispered, her heart pounding. "The message." She activated the projector, and a figure appeared, its features obscured by shadows. "To those who seek the cure," the figure intoned, "know that the path is fraught with danger. But the research facility on Xandria holds the key. Trust in hope, and you may yet save your world." The message ended, leaving the crew in stunned silence. "Xandria," Alara breathed. "We have to get there." "But Captain," Mira protested, "Xandria is in the middle of hostile territory. We'll never make it." "We have to try," Alara insisted, her voice fierce. "We have no other choice." The crew nodded, their resolve hardening. They would face whatever dangers lay ahead, driven by the hope of finding a cure. As they made their way back to the Elysium, Alara's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Fear, hope, determination. They all vied for dominance. But she knew one thing for certain. She would not give up. Not while there was still a chance to save her sister, to save Terralon. The journey to Xandria was long and perilous. They faced treacherous asteroid belts, hostile alien territories, and the ever-present threat of the Zephyr Plague. But through it all, Alara's spirit remained unbroken. She was a beacon of hope, guiding her crew through the darkest corners of the galaxy. As they finally approached Xandria, the desolate moon loomed before them, its surface barren and unforgiving. But Alara's heart surged with anticipation. They were close now, so close. "Prepare for landing," she ordered, her voice steady. "We're going to find that cure." The crew nodded, their faces etched with determination. Together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, driven by the unyielding hope that burned within them. As the Elysium touched down on the desolate surface of Xandria, Captain Alara Miles took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. The moon's bleak landscape stretched out before them, a stark contrast to the urgency of their mission. The crew disembarked, their footsteps crunching on the icy ground, each step echoing their shared resolve. Remember, stay alert, Alara reminded them, her voice cutting through the thin atmosphere. We don't know what we're up against here. Jax, her ever-reliable second-in-command, nodded. We've got your back, Captain. Mira, the engineer, adjusted her gloves, her eyes scanning the horizon. This place gives me the creeps. It's like a graveyard. Let's just hope we find what we're looking for, Leora, the navigator, chimed in, her voice tinged with both hope and apprehension. They moved forward, their breath visible in the frigid air. The coordinates from the cryptic message led them to a hidden entrance, partially buried under the moon's rocky surface. Alara's heart raced as she approached the entrance, her fingers brushing against the cold metal. This is it, she murmured. The research facility. With a collective effort, they managed to pry open the entrance, revealing a dark, narrow passageway. The air inside was stale, filled with the scent of dust and decay. Alara activated her wrist-mounted light, its beam cutting through the darkness. Stay close, she instructed, stepping into the passageway. The facility was eerily silent. The only sound, the crunch of their boots on the debris-strewn floor. As they ventured deeper, the walls became lined with abandoned equipment and shattered screens, remnants of a once thriving research outpost. Looks like this place was abandoned in a hurry, Jax observed, his voice barely above a whisper. Or they didn't have time to clean up, Mira added, her tone grim. Alara pushed forward, her mind focused on the goal. They reached a large chamber, its center dominated by a massive console. The room was filled with rows of data terminals, their screens dark and lifeless. Let's see if we can get any of these systems online, Alara said, her voice filled with determination. Mira set to work, her fingers flying over the controls. After a few tense moments, the console flickered to life, casting a pale glow over the room. Got it! Mira exclaimed, a triumphant smile on her face. Alara approached the console, her eyes scanning the data. Search for any information on the Zephyr Plague, she instructed. The console beeped. The lines of text scrolled across the screen. Alara's heart leaped as she read the words. Zephyr Plague, research data, potential cure located. This is it, she breathed, her voice trembling with emotion. We found it. But their moment of triumph was short-lived. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the lights flickered. An alarm blared, its shrill sound echoing through the facility. What's happening? Leora shouted, her voice filled with panic. We've triggered some kind of security system, Mira replied, her fingers frantically working the controls. We need to get out of here now, Jax yelled, grabbing Alara's arm. Alara shook him off. Not without the data. We can't leave without it. Captain, we don't have time, Jax protested. Alara's eyes met his, her expression fierce. We have to try. This is our only chance. The ground shook again, more violently this time. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. Alara, please, Jax begged. With a reluctant nod, Alara allowed Jax to pull her away from the control. Mira, download as much as you can. We need to move. The crew raced through the facility, the walls shaking around them. They reached the entrance just as the ceiling began to collapse. With a final burst of speed, they leapt out into the open, the facility crumbling behind them. They stood panting, their hearts pounding. Did you get the data? Alara asked, her voice urgent. Mira nodded, holding up a data chip. Got it. But we need to get back to the Elysium and analyze it. Alara's relief was palpable. Let's move. We are not out of danger yet. As they hurried back to the ship, Alara's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. They had the data, but the journey was far from over. The path to a cure was still fraught with uncertainty and danger. Once aboard the Elysium, they gathered in the medbay, where Dr. Kael, the ship's medic, was already setting up his equipment. Let's see what we've got, he said, inserting the data chip into his console. The screen flickered to life, displaying complex data and research notes. Dr. Kael's eyes widened as he scanned the information. This is incredible. They were so close to a cure. Can we replicate it? Alara asked, her voice filled with hope. Dr. Kael nodded slowly. With the right resources, yes. But we'll need to synthesize the compounds. And that will take time. Time we may not have, Jax reminded them, his voice grim. Alara's heart sank, but she refused to give in to despair. We'll make it work. We have to. As Dr. Kael set to work, the crew settled into a tense silence. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts, their emotions a tumultuous mix of fear, hope, and determination. Alara found a quiet corner of the medbay, her mind drifting back to her sister. She remembered the way her sister used to laugh, the sound of her voice, the warmth of her smile. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she blinked them away. She couldn't afford to break down now. Captain? Alara turned to see Leora standing behind her, her expression sympathetic. Are you okay? Alara forced a smile. I will be. Once we find that cure. Leora nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. We are all in this together. We'll get through it. Alara placed a hand on Leora's shoulder, grateful for her support. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without this crew. Leora smiled. We're a team. We'll make it happen. As the hours passed, the tension on the ship grew. Dr. Kael worked tirelessly, his face etched with concentration. Finally, he looked up. a weary smile on his face. "I've done it," he announced. "The cure is ready." Alara's heart soared. "Are you sure?" Dr. Kael nodded. "I've run all the tests. It should work." "Then let's get it back to Terralon," Alara said, her voice filled with determination. But their relief was short-lived. The ship's alarm blared again, and the lights flickered. "What now?" Mira shouted, her voice filled with frustration. "We're being hailed," Jack said, his expression grim. "It's the hostiles from the asteroid." Alara's heart sank. "On screen." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of the alien leader. "You have something that belongs to us," he growled. "We found the cure," Alara replied, her voice steady. "We're taking it back to Terralon." The alien sneered. "You will not leave this moon alive. Prepare to be boarded." Alara's mind raced. They were outnumbered and outgunned. But she refused to give up. "Jax, arm the defenses. Mira, get us ready for takeoff. We are not going down without a fight." The crew sprang into action, their movements a blur of urgency. Alara took her place at the helm, her hands steady on the controls. "Let's show them what we're made of." The battle was fierce, the Elysium shaking under the onslaught of enemy fire. But the crew fought with everything they had, their determination fueled by the hope of saving their home planet. Finally, with a last-ditch effort, they managed to break through the enemy lines. The Elysium soared into space, leaving Xandria behind. As they set a course for Terralon, Alara allowed herself a moment of relief. They had done it. They had found the cure. But the journey was far from over. They still had to make it back to Terralon, and who knew what dangers lay ahead? But Alara's spirit remained unbroken. She looked at her crew, their faces etched with exhaustion, but also with hope. "We're going home," she said, her voice filled with emotion. And together they faced the future, their hearts filled with unyielding hope. The Elysium raced through the cosmos, its engines roaring with a sense of urgency that mirrored the crew's emotions. The cure for the Zephyr plague was finally within their grasp. But the journey back to Terralon was fraught with its own perils. Each member of the crew was acutely aware that their mission was not yet complete. Alara sat in the captain's chair, her eyes fixed on the star map. The route ahead was treacherous, filled with potential hazards. "Leora, plot the safest course to Terralon. Avoid any known hostile territories." Leora nodded, her fingers dancing over the navigation console. "Aye, Captain. Plotting course now." Jax stood beside Alara, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "We need to prepare for anything. The hostiles from Xandria might not be the only ones after us." "Agreed," Alara replied. "Mira, how are our defenses holding up?" Mira, who had been working tirelessly to repair the damage from the recent battle, looked up from her console. "We've got the basics covered, but we're not at full strength. if we run into another fight, it's going to be tough. Understood, Alara said. We'll have to rely on our wits and teamwork. Dr. Kael, how's the cure holding up? Dr. Kael, who had been monitoring the synthesized compounds, gave a reassuring nod. The cure is stable. We just need to get it back to Terralon in time. Alara allowed herself a small smile. Good. Let's just keep it that way. As the ship sped through space, the crew settled into a tense but hopeful rhythm. Each one of them was acutely aware of the stakes, but they also felt a sense of camaraderie that had only deepened through their trials. In the quiet moments, Alara found herself reflecting on the journey. She thought of her sister, lying in a hospital bed, her body ravaged by the Zephyr plague. The memory fueled her determination, but it also brought a pang of sadness. She had missed so much, and there was no guarantee that they would be in time. Captain, you should get some rest, Jax said, noticing her weary expression. We'll need you at your best when we reach Terralon. Alara shook her head. I can't rest. Not now. There's too much at stake. Jax placed a hand on her shoulder. We're all in this together. You don't have to carry the burden alone. Alara looked at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you, Jax. I don't know what I'd do without you. Just doing my job, he replied with a small smile. As the days passed, the crew faced numerous challenges. They navigated through a nebula, its swirling gases threatening to engulf them. They encountered a pirate ship but managed to outmaneuver them, thanks to Leora's expert piloting and Mira's quick thinking. Each obstacle they overcame brought them closer to their goal, but it also tested their limits. Tempers flared, and conflicts arose, but they always managed to come together, their shared purpose binding them. One evening, as they gathered in the mess hall for a meal, the tension finally erupted. We're never going to make it, Mira shouted, slamming her fist on the table. We're just one step away from disaster at every turn. We need to keep going, Alara insisted, her voice steady. We can't give up now. Easy for you to say, Mira reported. You're not the one down in the engine room trying to keep this rust bucket together. Alara's eyes flashed with anger. I'm doing everything I can to get us home. We all are. But if we start fighting each other, we'll never make it. The room fell silent, the weight of Alara's words hanging in the air. Finally, Jax spoke up. She's right. We need to stay united. We're so close. We can't let anything tear us apart now. Mira sighed, her anger dissipating. I'm sorry, I'm scared. Alara reached out, taking Mira's hand. We all are. But we are also strong. Stronger together. The crew nodded, their resolve hardening. They were a team, and they would see this mission through to the end. As they neared Terralon, the anticipation on the ship was palpable. Each member of the crew was eager to return home, to see their loved ones, to deliver the cure. But their journey was not without one final challenge. As they entered Terralon's orbit, they were hailed by the Planetary Defense Forces. "Unidentified starship. State your business," a stern voice demanded. "This is Captain Alara Miles of the Elysium. We have the cure for the Zephyr Plague. Requesting permission to land." There was a moment of silence. Then the voice responded. "Permission granted. Welcome home, Captain Miles." The crew erupted in cheers, their relief and joy overwhelming. Alara allowed herself a moment of triumph, her heart swelling with emotion. As the Elysium touched down on Terralon soil, Alara and her crew disembarked, the cure in hand. They were greeted by a crowd of anxious faces, their eyes filled with hope. Alara stepped forward, her voice steady. "We have the cure. The Zephyr Plague will be stopped." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing across the landing pad. Alara's heart soared, but her thoughts were with her sister. She pushed through the crowd, making her way to the hospital. As she entered the room, her sister lay in the bed, her face pale and drawn. Alara's heart ached at the sight, but she forced a smile. "I'm here," she said, taking her sister's hand. "And I brought the cure." Her sister's eyes fluttered open, a glimmer of hope shining in them. "Alara." "It's going to be okay," Alara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You're going to be okay." With Dr. Kael's help, they administered the cure. The hours that followed were agonizing, but finally, her sister's condition began to improve. The color returned to her cheeks, and her breathing steadied. Alara sat beside her, holding her hand, her heart filled with gratitude and relief. They had done it. They had found the cure, and they had saved countless lives. As she looked at her sister, Alara knew that their journey had been worth every hardship, every sacrifice. They had faced the darkness of space and emerged victorious, their spirits unbroken. And in that moment, Alara Miles felt a profound sense of hope for her sister, for her crew, and for the future of Terralon. Together, they had overcome the impossible, and they would continue to do so, no matter what challenges lay ahead.